Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to my Let's Play of KSP Breaking Ground. This is my first Let's Play of Kerbal, or pretty much any game really, aside from a few guides I've done on OpenTTD. I'm really going to try to keep this as minimized on fluff as possible. I watched a decent number of Let's Plays out there, but the ones that are my favorites are the ones that are heavily edited and end up not having a lot of fluff or filler in them. So hopefully, aside from this intro, most of this will be meaty, juicy KSP content for you. As y'all can see here, pretty standard start to a career. No crazy ships or anything, just first guy just getting up there, getting some early science. The astute observers out there will notice that I'm using a few different mods. Health monitor there I just opened up is a mod that gives Kerbals different lifespans, sort of, or essentially gives a maximum amount of time they can be in space. I've also got a few other things: X Science, Kerbal Engineer, Astrogator to help with transfer windows. But for the most part, it's nothing game breaking necessarily. A moment ago, I just modified the opening altitude of that parachute, but right here you'll see I increased it by 600. And we slowed down at around 690 there, so I didn't need to, and we also would have had a badass low parachute opening, but yeah, things don't always work out in life, I guess. Just getting some technology from the science that I got from that first mission. I actually picked up some new contracts as well, but I spent an embarrassing amount of time in the contract building there. So I'm just going to be, I'm not going to be focusing too much on the contracts that I get in the early part of this game. Now, in this, you'll see me messing around with this solid rocket motor a lot, and that's because I picked up a contract to fire it off, I believe at 60,000 meters, and while traveling at around 300 meters per second, which, when you think about it, is a really hard combo to hit in this, especially in the early game, so definitely a bit overambitious from me. We can just go ahead and jump to the finished product here. Just launching now. This is a pretty standard early game ship. All the ones in this video are going to be. This one does not have enough to get into orbit, but it definitely has enough to exit the atmosphere. So, at the very least, we should be able to get some good early game science from this guy. Fast forwarding through a bit of the action here, you'll notice that leftover from this dumb contract that I picked up is this solid rocket booster. We weren't anywhere close to the contract objectives, 60,000 meters, 400 meters per second, but yeah, it's cute at least. It gets us a little higher up. Right here I'm just having another look at this health monitor. The way that it works is that Kerbals have a certain amount of health, and once they run out of that health, they turn into tourists. Health decreases faster the further that you are from a planetary body, and the smaller that your ship is. So for example, you have one Kerbal, room for 3. That Kerbal will last longer than if you had 3 Kerbals on that ship. Unsurprisingly here, the remainder of this is pretty standard, just like the rest of these missions in this video. Just entry, parachute, landing, collect a little bit of science. So we'll go ahead and fast forward through most of this. This mission ends up netting us a decent little chunk of science. I cut out myself going into the contract room and the research department. We just pick up some early game tech and pick up a mission to reach orbit. Sort of in line with that contract that we got, I am developing a orbit capable ship here. I've been playing this game for about 7 or 8 years, so I feel like every time I make one of these, it takes longer than it should. But having these mass and part constraints, I always seem to forget about them until it's too late. And it is interesting how it continues to provide some level of challenge. Here we are launching our first orbit-capable ship of this little career playthrough. Grabbing some science there down low. I know that I'm going to be able to get some amount of science once we actually reach space, but I want to be maximizing as much as I can get. So grabbing it down low here is useful. Approaching space here, I'm able to do a gravity turn decently early on because this craft is quite aerodynamic. So we're able to start building up that lateral speed quite quickly. Let me fast forward to the apoapsis, standard circularization burn. All these missions in this first video, and I know I've said this before, they're pretty simple, they're straightforward. I promise things will get a little bit more complex, but you know, there's something sort of refreshing about these early game simple ships. Skipping ahead again, we reach apoapsis here and go ahead and do a burn to lower our periapsis down into the atmosphere, decently low but not quite touching the surface. The more time that you can spend going horizontally through the atmosphere, the more time that you have to slow down and the less dangerous it is for your crew. Here we zoom ahead again. I really like spinning around my capsule and then detaching the empty fuel tank. It's a little bit safer, reduces the chance of collision, and also it's funny to imagine the Kerbals in there just getting spun around like a centrifuge. Unsurprisingly, we have a pretty smooth re-entry here. It's the third time that you've seen a capsule like this re-enter, so I'm just zooming through it real quick here. And that's it. Solid little chunk of science. That's the first episode done. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Any feedback is welcome down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.